Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to part 3 of my favorite books with the autistic main characters, because I am astonished to learn that it's been over a year since I've done a part to this video. Although I've made a video more recently talking about my favorite queer autistic books, but today's video is going to be a little bit more general. So basically, the first book on this list is called All the Noise at Once. This book was one of my 5-star favorites last year, and if you didn't know, it's a YA contemporary following a black autistic main character whose older brother gets wrongfully incarcerated for a crime that he did not commit. I think this book depicts racism, social justice, and ableism and intersectionality in a way that felt so fresh and so new, and it was so well done. I loved the characters and the family dynamics and the plot and the setting and everything. Everything felt so well developed and so well done, and the pacing and the writing and everything was so good. I'm so excited for the author's next book, which I think comes out in mid-2026 if I'm not mistaken. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, this book was so good. I related so much with the disability representation as well as the black representation. I've read so few books with autistic people of color as the protagonist, but this book in particular felt so relatable, and I just felt so seen and heard by the main character and everything that he was going through. So anyway, in conclusion, I would definitely highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called Compound Fracture. This story is a YA contemporary thriller following a young autistic transgender aromantic main character who gets thrust into the middle of a generations-long battle between the rural poor and those who exploit them, and it's set right after an attempted murder because his neighbor tries to kill him. And I'm being dead-ass serious. I think this book is so good, and it's so well done, and I love the depiction of, like, queer rage, which I think is so incredibly important. And second of all, I loved the transgender representation paired with the autism representation, as well as the aromantic representation. Like, everything felt so good and so well done. The analogy of, like, having an autism diagnosis finally after so much time is like putting glasses on for the first time is such a good analogy, and it's something that I quote all the time. Andrew's writing is so good. I love their books so much, and this book is so incredible. Aside from the representation, which was awesome, of course, I loved the characters and the plot and the friendships and everything. I think this book is so incredible, and it's so excellent. So anyway, this book is just like pure class. You know what I mean? Anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Some Like It Cold. This story is a YA contemporary following a bisexual autistic main character who's returning home during, I believe, is her winter break, and she's deciding to switch her major, and she hasn't told anybody yet, but essentially she's returning from university to her small town that she's never quite felt accepted in due to multiple reasons, honestly, and she brushes paths with her former classmate from high school who's making a film about their small town. And I think this book is so good, and it's so fantastic. First of all, again, I felt so seen by Jasper as an autistic person myself. I thought the characters and the romance were done so well. I love the pacing and the writing and the family dynamics and the disability representation. Like, this book is incredible, and it's so good. And I've always loved Elle's books in the past, and this book was no exception to that, except that it was so much better than I thought it was going to be. It was one of my first 5-star favorites of 2025. I think I actually read it in the first week of 2025, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, this book was so good, and it was so awesome. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Dear Mothman. This story is a middle-grade contemporary following a young transgender autistic main character who's navigating the loss of one of his friends who is also transgender like himself by writing to his favorite cryptid. This book is absolutely so good, and it's so fantastic. First of all, I loved the portrayal of grief and loss and friendship. I think this book is so good. The writing and the pacing and the characters were all so well developed and so good. I think this book is so fantastic, and I loved the poetry of the writing and the story and everything. Like, the autism representation as well as the transgender representation was so good. Like, Robin has become one of my favorite authors over the past few years because their writing has always been so poetic and so lyrical and so excellent. Like, this book is so good and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. This story is a YA historical fantasy following a transgender main character who is forced to go to an all-girls boarding school that is being haunted by the ghosts of the past students, and it's set during the Victorian era. I love this book so much because, first of all, I love the depiction of autism in a historical setting because it serves as a reminder that autism has always existed and it's not a new trend that just got discovered or whatever less than 100 years ago. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but this book was so fantastic and it was so awesome. I really enjoyed it, especially the paranormal stuff. That was so cool and it was so well developed and it was so stunning. The writing is so good, the pacing's awesome. I love the characters and the plot and the mystery and everything. This book is so good. Andrew's writing is so awesome and it's so well done. I'm so excited for the next YA book. They're so good. Anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Trouble with Robots. This story is a middle grade contemporary following two queer main characters who are paired up together for an 8th grade robotics competition team. This book is so good and it's so fantastic. First of all, I loved the queer representation. One of the main characters is bisexual, and the bisexual main character is also autistic, and the other main character is asexual. And I think this book is so good and it's so awesome. I love the two characters individually as well as their friendship together. The representation felt so normalized and so casual and so well done, and I just really enjoyed it so much. The characters and the plot and the pacing and even the robotics elements felt so well developed and so good. This book is so awesome and it's so fantastic and it's so underrated. And I feel like I haven't talked about it in a minute. But anyway, I think this book is so good and it's so awesome and it's so fantastic and excellent and brilliant. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and definitely not the least, is called Daniel Deconstructed. This story is a YA contemporary following a pansexual Cuban-American autistic main character who tries to play matchmaker between his best friend and the new student, only he accidentally starts to fall for the new student himself. This book was so good and it was so fantastic, and I truly really enjoyed it so much because I just love a nice, sweet, solid, queer rom-com. Everything was so good and it was so well done. I loved the romance so much because it felt so sweet and nice and well done. And the autism representation was so good and so well done. I loved the friendships and the characters and the plot and everything. This book is so underrated. I remember there was a point in time on my channel where I would literally talk about this book all the time. And I think that I should do that again. Anyway, I think this book is so good and it's so fantastic and it's so underrated. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. So in conclusion, as much as I really enjoy making these diverse book recommendation videos frequently, sometimes it feels really isolating because sometimes I feel like I'm the only booktube creator who makes all of these diverse book recommendations as frequently and as consistently as I do, and I know I talked about this in a video that I made in October of 2023, so it might feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. But anyway, in conclusion, I really enjoyed making this video. I hope this video helps diversify your content, especially when it comes to reading books that have disabled main characters. I feel like even readers who claim that they read diversely tend to leave out disabled people. It's just really annoying as a disabled person of color. You know what I mean? Like, people tend to be super intentional about reading gay books or reading books about people of color, but then they don't read books about disabled people, and it's just really annoying to be left out of the conversation completely. I don't really know if people are doing that on purpose necessarily, but I think that people in general should be more intentional about reading diversely. I think it's so important to read diversely and have these conversations intentionally, if that makes any sense. But anyway, in conclusion, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the owl emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!